Matchmaking is a reality series on Netflix that went viral during the pandemic and just released season 2. I got a chance to sit with the castmates and interview them on my podcast. Whether you're all for arranged marriage or want to swipe left or swipe right, this series on Indian matchmaking has something for everyone. I've partnered with a brand that I love, the Chai Box, because nothing says I love you like a warm cup of chai. I also caught up with the founder, Monica Sunny, on how she built her brand, which caught the attention of Oprah. We'll talk about chai meditation and the rituals that the castmates have around chai time. So this Valentine's Day, the Chai Box presents Behind the Scenes with the cast of Indian Matchmaking, only on That's Total Mom Sense. So sip your tea while they spill the tea. Oh, vale, vale. See you there. Hi, listeners. It's Kanika. This week, I interviewed the success story of Netflix Indian matchmaking series, Viral Joshi and Aashay Shah. I actually got a chance to meet Aashay in person in New York, which is really great when you can put a face to the person. Viral and Aashay are so laid back, and they complement one another's personalities beautifully. We talked about how they worked with matchmaker Seema Taparia to find their ideal match, having a first date with the entire family, and how they're navigating their long-distance relationship. Absence makes the heart grow fonder after all. Tune in. So continuing on with the Indian matchmaking series on That's Total Mom Sense, today I have two very special guests with me who are Seema Auntie's only success story, Viral and Aashay. Thanks so much for joining me today.
Thanks for having us.
Yeah, we're happy to be here.
Viral, I'll start with you. Tell us a little bit about how you grew up. And, you know, we got a glimpse watching the show, but for those who haven't seen it yet, what was it like growing up in the States for you? And, you know, what were some of the values that your parents passed on?
So I grew up an only child. You know, I got a lot of attention from both of my parents. It was a little bit of a helicopter parenting situation, but I think that's what my parents knew. And that's all they kind of, I guess, knew how to navigate parenthood. Growing up an only child and having that constant attention does allow my parents to really, you know, fine tune exactly what values and beliefs that they want to instill in me. A few of those being like, of course, family values. I feel like we hear that a lot on the show. And I think that's a big component, especially our Indian culture. And I'm glad we were able to capture a little bit of that on the show. My dad was very pivotal in instilling confidence. He started when I was younger. He would set little mini goals for me. Okay, by the end of the day, have all of this completed. And it would be like the smallest things like, you know, make your bed, brush your teeth, et cetera, et cetera. But knowing that at the end of the day, I was able to accomplish those things, I felt satisfied. Those little things helped me build confidence. And then I carried that same trend as I got older. And so I think the little value of reminding myself that I'm a strong woman, that's something my dad has always told me. He was like, I always wanted a girl. Even when they get married, they're closer to their parents. When I found out you were a girl, I love that. And that's another family values thing. He was like, I want my daughter to be close to me. You know, whenever I wanted to cry or feel sad about something, he always told me to keep my chin up and keep moving forward. And even during this whole dating process, a lot of times I wasn't comfortable talking to him, but then at the same time, he was the only person I felt comfortable talking to. My dad's an accountant. And there's that financial analytical. So he would never let me get down. He would always kind of pull me back up to the 50,000 foot view and say, okay, this is the big picture here. This is one little hiccup or bump along the way. Just keep moving forward. So a lot of those things came from my parents for sure.
Aashay, what about you? I know you were raised in India and so had a completely different worldview at the time.
So I was born in India, and then we've been to the US a few times before then. So my dad's a lawyer. We were kind of contemplating coming to the US, and he initially wanted to practice in the US. So we went to California. That's where his brother lives. He's a doctor there. So we went there, and he's the first one that actually came to the US, my dad's brother. My dad was like, oh, well, let's go to California and see if that's someplace that we want to stay in the US. So, we came here, we passed the bar exam, and he just didn't find the mode of practice in the US was something that he wanted to do. Mm-hmm. And he wanted to do law back home. He wanted to open his own practice. He felt more connected to the people back home. So we decided to move back. And then we came back again a few times to visit family and stuff. Fast forward a few years later, they asked me if I wanted to come to the US, for education, because my grandpa, he told my dad, he's like, why don't you send one of your kids to America? He can stay with us. We'll take care of him. We'll put him through school, all that good stuff. So that my parents, they asked me when I was like 11, they're like, hey, do you want to go to America? Stay with grandparents and aunt and uncle. And I only know the fun times of we're on vacation. We have all these cousins, all these family members here. So I'm like, oh yeah, it'll be fun. I wasn't even thinking about school. I'm like, yeah, for sure, let's do it. So then my dad came with me to drop me off to my uncle's place in St. Louis. They migrated from like California to St. Louis. They had just moved 5 years prior. So, and then my dad left like a month later. I went back home. So then it really hit me. I'm like, oh, I'm here by myself now. Like parents aren't here, brother's not here. I'm here, not alone, but when your parents aren't here and when you're 12, you're definitely going to feel like you're isolated from your family, right? So, but I had a lot of loving family members like in the household. So I had 3 cousins that I grew up with, and then my aunt and uncle who treated me like their own child. So I definitely had a good support system. They never made me feel like I was away from family because I was with family. So I'd never felt the shortage of parents just because they nurtured me in their household. So, and then I did undergrad here, and then optometry school, and just the wheels just kept rolling from there.
Dating, what was that like? Did you feel open to talking to your family members back home about it or here? Because, it's so funny. It's like you're in undergrad and it's just study, study, study. As soon as you graduate, it's like, get married. What was that like? How'd that play out for both of you?
My parents, they both got married later in life. And at that time, they were married at 32. So my parents always instilled in me that it's important, even if it takes a long time, the person meant for you will find you. Marriage is something that's supposed to be forever. You would rather wait to find the right person, even if it takes a little bit longer, than to hurry up and get married because of some arbitrary timeline that society has put on us that really has no meaning. It's just something we say. And especially as more women get advanced in their careers and things like that, relationships do take a little bit of a back burner position. But my parents always told me it's better to wait for the right person than to get married young and then, have a messy divorce, or you stay in there for life and you're unhappy. And then even when I was dating in college, I would try and have as open of a conversation with my parents as possible, because I knew that if they understood that, hey, I'm at least trying, or I'm putting myself out there would be a little bit of they understand, oh, she is trying. It's not like she's just sitting there twiddling her thumbs. My parents are like, are you trying? What are you waiting for? Et cetera, et cetera. I'm not even kidding when I say this. I would take my phone, open a dating app that I was on, and I would screencast it to the TV and sit in the living room with my parents and say, see, I'm trying. These are my matches. These are the conversations. And I think what helps is when you have that transparency with your parents, the pressure comes off a little bit because they know you're trying. And then I think they can understand a little bit oh, they didn't date, right? My parents are truly an arranged marriage. They met on their wedding day. And so when you have a dating app, it's a concept they don't understand. Having that open communication takes a lot of the pressure off.
Aashay, what about you? Did you feel like you kept things close to the chest, or you were just like, okay, I'm going to just tell them what it's like?
Yeah, a little bit of both, actually. So initially, I kept everything close to the chest because I'm a very private person, just in general. So when I first started dating, during undergrad or even through college, I never would open up and talk to family members about if I was having any kind of troubles in the dating world or any kind of issues relationship wise. Every time they would ask me, I'd be like, oh, things are going well. I'm dating around, seeing how things go, but I would never open up. Indian parents, they're always like, oh, you're not seeing anyone, you're not dating anyone because you haven't seen pictures of any of these people. You haven't met any of these people. My parents being in India, they get a little bit more progressive, but they do get a little bit more worried just because, their older son is not married. So, even though I would reassure them that, things are going well, I'm dating, because I don't like that added pressure of timelines. And I don't like the pressure that society and people put on you that, hey, you have to get married by this age. It's time to get married. What's the next step? Although I do take those things and, analyze those within my own mind and take the necessary steps, I don't like the timeline. So that's why I never divulge any information to my family members. And then my mom, she's like, oh, you need to go to these marriage conventions. You need to go to these, meet these people that are close to your family friends. They have this daughter. They're asking about you. What do you want to do? At first I was like, no, I don't want to meet anyone. I just want to do things on my own. And then just to kind of, make my mom happy, I'm like, okay, fine, I'll do it. I'll meet wherever you want me to meet, and then see how things go. Just have an open mind. Even when I went back to India, I've done the things where, go to the village, meet a girl, and then go, talk in private, and then see how things go, and see if there's a girl that I like. So, some like a few years back, I think my mom's like, why don't you come to India, spend maybe like a week here, you will look at all these girls, and then see what you want to do, and then we'll get you married. I'm like, no, that's not how it works. I'll talk to the girl that you want me to talk to, no problem. I'm not the type of person that can just go to India, pick someone and get married.
Right.
I have family members that have done that. And, I see that they're very happy and it's worked out for them. But for me, I think like marriage is a big, big investment, and it's a big part of your life. Then, it's the rest. So I want to make sure I make the right decision, date and get to know someone better. Throughout the years, I've started to involve my parents more in my relationships, right? For the past maybe 3-4 years, I've kept them in the loop. So I tell them everything about my relationships, right? So, my brother, I've talked to him about stuff all the time. Like him and my sister-in-law, I've talked to them about stuff even before my parents. But then now I'm getting my parents involved. One, it'll put their mind at ease, seeing that I'm, actually putting the effort in dating. And then so now I'm pretty open with my parents about that stuff. And they're very understanding. It's a good feeling to have to, be able to talk to parents, and they understand where you're coming from. They understand the dating world nowadays as well, right?
Now enter Indian matchmaking. How'd you find out about the casting? What were auditions like? And then when you finally got the call that it's like, we want you on the show.
Me and my friend have this favorite restaurant back home. Because we know we're going to eat so much food at this restaurant, I don't eat all day because I'm like ready for it. Believe it or not, it's relevant. So a long time ago, I was like an extra in Iron Man 3 when they came to my college to film. Mm-hmm. And on that set, I had the best crepes I'd ever had in my entire life. And at the time, I didn't understand that the production was probably contracting with like a local crepe place. I thought, oh my God, it's Robert Downey Jr. Of course, the crepe people travel with him. So I'm sitting there waiting in the parking lot of this restaurant, and all of a sudden those crepes come in my mind. So knowing the logic that the crepes follow the production, I'm like, okay, I need to get on a set. That's what I did. And then so I'm sitting in my car waiting for my friend, and I just Googled casting near me. I guess my phone, knew I was on dating apps looking like an Indian person, looking for another Indian person.
Oh my God. Wow. Okay.
Even when I was like near me, the first hit that I got was casting for an Indian dating show. And then I read the description and I was like, I know what dating show this is. Like I can put 2 and 2 together. And then I just applied. It was a very long application process, a lot of vetting. I was interviewed, I think, for like a total of like 5 hours over the course of a few months. And then my parents for an hour. And then you submit all these photos of yourself. And then they pick you and then they call you. And I remember production calling me. And then I was like, okay, what's the next step? And they were like, we want to follow you and your story. We think you're a very compelling and exciting and unique person. You're definitely someone we want. And I think we see that on this show with just how long the coverage of like my story was.
And what about you, Aashay? How'd you find out about the show?
So I watched season 1 and I was a big fan of season 1, right? And I always joke around with my friends and family. I'm like, oh, one day I'm going to be on one of these dating shows. And they're like, oh, you'd be perfect for that. They're like, you should definitely like apply it. And I'm like, no, that's never going to happen. Like there's an Instagram post, want to be on Indian Matchmaking season 2, click this link and apply here. So I was just sitting around watching football on a Sunday afternoon. And I'm like, why not? So I applied. It was a long application. So I'm like, wow, is it even worth it? And I applied. It took me 30 minutes to fill out the application, whatever. The following week, I saw something where it said, oh, if you want to be in matchmaking, you have to submit a 1-minute video. And that's how they select you. So I'm like, oh, okay, that application that I filled out was probably something fake. And then like a month later, got a call from one of the scouts that was kind of scouting for Indian Matchmaking season 2. And then he asked me to submit some photos. He's like, okay, I'll forward those over to the producers. They'll get back to you. A couple of weeks after that, the producers of the show, they reached out to me. They wanted to do a Zoom call with me. So we did like a Zoom call. And then they're like, oh, we think you'll be great for the show. We'll reach out to Seema Auntie and she will be in touch with you. And then I got a call from Seema Auntie, and then we did like a Zoom call. And then she's like, okay, well, I'll look for matches for you. It might take a couple weeks. It might take a couple months. I'll be in touch with you whenever. So then a week later, she reached back out to me, or they reached back out to me saying that they had found a match for me. And then I'm like, oh, I wonder who it is. I had no idea who it was. So I'm like, oh, is it somebody in New York? Is it somebody like long distance? What it's going to be? And then I asked them, and then they said, oh, it's a girl in North Carolina, and we think she'd be great for you. So then that's how the whole process kickstarted.
Seema auntie. I feel like that's a whole discussion in itself. I love that she's like the most loved and hated on the show. What was it like kind of meeting her and having it all unfold?
I remember when I met her for the first time, and everyone sees it on camera, but I think the way the camera is, you don't see my facial expression, but I don't know what it is, but I was in such awe of her. I opened the door and she's like, hi, Viral. And I'm like, she's really here. She is an auntie and she's going to ask you some very hard questions. And at that moment, like in time, I was like, oh my God. From season 1, I do think she gives people quality matches on paper. I thought all the matches were strong. So I was like, okay. And then it's up to the couple, of course, to take it from there, whether there's chemistry, attraction, etc. Yeah. But I was like, knows what she's doing. Everything I've been doing is obviously not working because I'm still single, right? Keep an open mind, try something new. What's the worst that could happen? Oh, it didn't work out. Well, it's not working out already for me anyway. So nothing different. So I give her a tour of my house and then we sit at my dining room table and we start having the checklist conversation. And it was hard, because it's ultimately auntie's a stranger, right? And she's asking me these very personal questions like, okay, this is your checklist. Why is this important to you? Why is that important to you? And it comes off a little bit like a grilling in the moment. This is her job and this is her way of working. And again, whatever I've been doing hasn't been working. So let's try it her way. And she is a successful Indian matchmaker. Of course, we don't see that many on the show, but she has many successful matches. Having that open conversation that I had been having with my parents, I started having it with her. She would, after all of my dates, she would call me, how'd it go? What do you think? What do you think? And then I would give her like the feedback. And then what's nice is that the next match I got after the initial feedback had that quality improved. Like each time we get better and better, like the matches do improve. So I think we're going to get there.
What about you, Aashay? What were your impressions of Seema auntie on the Zoom and then when you met her?
When she first called me, it was like talking to an auntie at like a wedding. Like her demeanor is very like calm, cool, collected. So she's kind of wanted to know me a little bit better, right? So she just asked me about my upbringing, what I was looking for, what I'm looking for in life and relationships. She's very open and receptive to like my needs. And then she's like, okay, I'll reach back out to you in a couple of weeks and we'll kind of take it from there.
I would say, let's pare it down. What are your top 3, she says criterias, but it's like qualities or whatever you want to say that you look for that I guess you found in each other, which is so beautiful. So what's the top 3 for you, girl?
Speaking the language and like maintaining and retaining that culture. That's number 1. Mm-hmm. Number 2, I guess a value for education. Aashay's obviously gone through like grad school and things like that and has that value. Like, oh, I want a good life for myself and I want to take the educational route to get there. And then number 3, the family. He's very, very close to his family. He spends a lot of time with them, keeping in touch with them. I'm not as good about it, unfortunately, and I own that. But seeing him inspires me to be better with my family. So I know that after being with him, I do make more of an effort with my own family. And then, of course, when he's like a dad and things like that, I already have kind of a perspective of what kind of husband and father he has the potential to be, right? And so I think those are all very beautiful things, and I learn from him a lot.
And what about you, Aashay?
Family values are obviously they're the most important to me because, I do have a big family and, being away from my own, like my parents has like, got me closer to them as well, right? So when I was in St. Louis in the Midwest, I had like family there that like I could, any day of the week, I could just go over and, go for dinner, just drop in randomly and I wouldn't be weird. So, I had family and friends when I was in St. Louis. Once I moved to New York, I didn't know anyone in the city. That definitely made me realize I'm like, oh, I have no one here, in terms of family. That's when it hits you that, family definitely is important to me. And, in the future, I want to be somewhere where I have family close to me, like, in distance, right? So I want that definitely just because, I understand the value. Because, when I first moved here, the hardest part for me was around like Christmas and Thanksgiving time when everyone's like going to their families. I'm like in New York and I'm like, oh, I have to like travel to like see family, like travel far away to see family. So luckily, I had friends that, I went over to their house, did like a family celebration with them and things like that. So that was definitely good. But, when it's your own family that's far away from you, that's when you realize you're like, oh, this is different, because that was the first time I think in my life that I was completely away from like my own family for like the holidays. Right. So that's, I think, the most important to me. And I think also like ambition in life, I think is very important to me as well, because everyone has room to grow. We're growing constantly every day. We try to find ways to grow ourselves mentally, physically, in every single way. Right. So
Yeah.
that's what I look for in a partner as well, just the ambition to grow as well. And I think, like Viral, with her job, I think she's climbed up the ladder pretty rapidly, I think, from, past few years with the new job and everything. So I think that's really good that she put that out there. And then now she's where she's at right now because of that, because of the hard work that she put in. Right. So that's one thing I look for as well. But then also someone who likes to stay like physically active, someone who likes that lifestyle, because, it's important to stay healthy and you have all these resources to do that. Right. So I definitely feel like that's an important part of like my life. And I want to share that with someone.
Okay. So now tell us about what it was like when you first had your first encounter. It's like this Bollywood Pehli Mulakat kind of moment.
Oh my gosh. So I had 2 dates that didn't work out. And, at that point, you get a little bit dejected. You're like, everything I've tried on my own doesn't work. Everything was Simonti. Now this isn't working. And then you start to panic a little bit inside. You start having those thoughts in your head again, like, oh, I'm never going to find someone, or, oh my God, now what do I do? Or, oh my God, now I have to go back to the dating app. That was the biggest one for me. Then they call me and they're like, oh, we have another match for you. I'm like, okay, and I committed to the process, so I didn't want to quit. I told them like, yes, I'll see this through fully. So I embraced a new match with open arms. And then he rings the doorbell. Keep an open mind. Don't let the, past not working out impact you here. And then I unlock the door, I open it. And the first thing I see is this huge bouquet of flowers. And then I see like him poke his head out from behind it. And then to me, that felt like, he came to my house for the first time. He made an effort to bring me something. He was very warm and welcoming and smiley, like as soon as I opened the door, right? And I was like, oh, okay, it helped me let my guard down too a little bit and kind of forget what I had just been through with a few of the previous matches. And then, you feel a little bit giddy, you feel a little bit excited. And then like, I got nervous because I'm like, oh, my parents are upstairs. So
yeah.
Now I don't know how this is going to go. I'm meeting him for the first time with my parents. It's a little intense.
Did you feel nervous actually when you were, interacting? You're just,
I didn't know like weeks in advance that's what I was doing. Right. So I didn't have any time to like mentally prepare for that day to happen. Right. So I was like, oh, cool. I'll just, I'll go with it and see what happens, because I'm open to anything that they have said. Right. So these are experiences that you live through. Right. Like, so I'm very open to like any kind of experiences. So I'm like, okay, well, whatever they want me to do, let's go with it with an open mind and see what comes of it. So they tell me, they're like, okay, you're going to, first thing you're going to do is you're going to meet her and her parents at her house for the first time. So me meeting her for the first time was when I met like her parents for the first time too. So it's kind of all happened in like one day. I don't think I felt nervous in the moment. I didn't, but then I knew when I actually would see them for the first time, that's when something would probably happen, right? Like me being nervous for maybe a couple of minutes or whatnot. So that's what I was projecting, right? And then when I actually met them, it was actually there was no nerves at all. It kind of everything just flew so effortlessly, right? Everything, I didn't have any like hesitation or any kind of, regrets in even doing it, because her parents were very like warm and welcoming. And her, of course, she's very, giddy and things like that. So it was very easy. Like I didn't have to like try to put on a front, try to be somebody else that I wasn't. They're very like warm and welcoming. So it kind of made me feel at home. It kind of made me feel, these people aren't here to judge me. They just want to know me a little bit better.
What advice do you have for those who are in your shoes and they're watching and they're just like, I hope I find my person and time's ticking?
Yeah. I think it's important to remember that, marriage is a goal you have in life, but there are career goals, there are education goals, there are financial goals that we all have before we want to meet our person. For me, I knew I wanted to make like X salary before I meet someone, or I wanted to be debt free before I meet someone. And I think it's important to work on those goals as well. And it builds character. So if you spend time with yourself and enjoy being single, and that's something my friends always told me, they were like, because once you're in a relationship, once you're married, you're never going to be alone again. Always remember that the person meant for you will find you, even though it may seem impossible. Remember that the timelines are what someone else has set those on you. You have to move at your own pace. We all don't move at the same timeline. And I know it's easier to say that from where I am now, because when I was on the opposite side of the fence, I felt the same things. And when my friends would tell me that, I would be like, oh, you just don't get it. Having been through it and like making it to the other side a little bit, I can say, just keep that in mind. There is some validity to those statements.
You just have to take your time, because I think if you rush into things, then you might have regrets later on down the line, saying that, hey, why didn't I, give it a little bit more time? Why didn't I get to know the person a little bit better? Because I know people that have rushed into it, and then they end up getting divorced, or end up just regretting that they made the decision to jump in. It's very important to take your time, go at your own pace. Don't try to put on a front, because you can't do that for years and decades on out, right? You have to, that wears down. You have to be yourself. And then if the person likes you for who you are, great. If they don't, then move on. It's not the end of the world. There's going to be somebody that likes you for who you are.
How are things now? You guys are, I guess, months out of when the show is released, and we're filming even before that, and are doing such a great job with the long distance relationship, a very necessary testament to a strong relationship. I went through that with my husband as well, and I loved that we had that, and we went to different cities all the time. How are you both in the present day?
We're good. We're obviously long distance, and that does have its pros and cons. The con being, we're not together 24/7. Actually, even if we were in the same city, I don't think we'd be together 24/7. But, today the weather is beautiful. He can't call me up and be like, hey, you want to go get coffee somewhere real quick? Like, we can't have those spontaneous moments. Everything is very planned. But I think what's a pro about long distance, which I think is underappreciated, is the quality of the communication that can develop and has the potential to develop, because there always has to be an active conversation between us two about, okay, when are we seeing each other next? If that's not an active conversation, it can create distance. And then especially when you're already far away from each other, you want to keep the distance as minimal as possible. What's nice is once we've established, like, okay, this is how we're going to communicate, because we don't have the body language to rely on, which is so important in communication, that when we are together, it's much easier to communicate, because there's the body language there, or see micro expressions and kind of figure out how he's feeling. And those are things that just further enhance the quality of the relationship. Overall, things are, what's nice is North Carolina and New York, they're both on the East Coast. I think if this was a situation where I was in Texas or California, or, there was like a time zone difference, that would be pretty challenging. And luckily we don't have to battle that. I know there are couples that do. Having that understanding that, we're not the only ones dealing with the long distance, it helps. There is a whole community of long distance relationships.
Yeah, no, I think it's going really well. She understands like what it takes to be in a long distance. You can't be with the person every day. You can't, if she was in New York, I could see her maybe, 2-3 times a week. We'd be a lot further along. But, if we're a long distance, it's once every few weeks. So we have to make those moments in between count. And we have to kind of, when we see each other, we have to kind of make up for lost time.
That's awesome. Well, we're rooting for you, and we love seeing you both together. And I think it's just so sweet to see your relationship unfold. I know it's a lot to put yourself out there, and you have this like world audience, but know that you're so genuine and authentic in who you both are and what you stand for. And to see it come together in this way is it's such a treat. And like sending you all the positivity and blessings. Thank you so much to both of you. This was so fun.
For sure.
Thanks for having us.
The Indian Matchmaking series has been brought to you by The Chai Box, a premium tea company and one of Oprah's favorites right here in the U.S. I especially love the Chai Tonic, Coconut Mela, Hill Station, and Punjaban Party blends. And there's also a chai concentrate that you can have on ice. You can shop products at thechaibox.com and remember to use my code MOMSENSE, MOMSENSE, to receive 10% off. That's code MOMSENSE to receive 10% off at the Chai Box. A big thank you and big hugs to Viral and Aashay for joining me on the show. Thanks for being so honest and open. I know audience members are like, whew, I feel so seen right now. I remember my long distance relationship, and it only made us stronger now that we're a family of 5. And I wish both of you the best as you're going back and forth between North Carolina and New York. Enjoy the trips and enjoy the memories. You can follow them on Instagram. It's Viral Joshi _ and Aashay Shah _18. And of course, my handle is at Kanika Chadda Gupta, and I'm going to be posting highlights of their episodes. So I can't wait for you to see that. And you can watch the entire thing on YouTube, on my YouTube channel. Just search That's Total Mom Sense and you'll find it. Thank you to the Chai Box for being my sponsor for this series. You can follow them at the Chai Box. They have really unique blends of chai, which is, Indian for tea. I love that there's a Kick Cancer's Ass Chai, Parsi Dream, and Punjaban Party. It's just, there's so many different flavors and the aromas are to die for. The chai concentrate is delicious. You just pour it over ice and you have a nice chai. These blends are so authentic and are not infused by sugar, much like the concentrates that are served at your regular coffee shops. So you're going to want to try the Chai Box and all of their products. And here's a plus. Oprah loves them. They were on her favorite things list. So you just know it's good. Thank you, Oprah. Write to me at thatstotalmomsense@gmail.com if you have any comments or feedback. And as always, as you know the drill, be sure to subscribe to the show wherever you listen to podcasts and rate and review it. It helps a ton with the algorithms and for others to find the show too. Thank you for being in my tribe. Always remember to trust your mom sense and dad sense. Stay strong, super parents and families. See you soon.
That's total mom sense.